on exports. Truly delighted that the DOPT has kept this as a subject for discussions amongst officers from all over the country. I'm really happy that the kind of interest that we are seeing all across the country on this subject is bringing exports to center stage, and also very happy to see the collective effort of all the departments, all the officials in trying to make this a success story. First of all, I'd like to compliment and congratulate all the awardees of the Prime Minister's Award for Excellence in Public Administration. It's truly a matter of honor for each one of you who have been selected from amongst a large number of civil servants serving the nation across the length and breadth of the country, and certainly will encourage you in your work in the years ahead, but also encourage all our other colleagues who I hope will aspire to become awardees in the years to come. Of course, the Civil Services Day is an occasion for each one of you to reflect on the work that you have done, to renew your dedication to the cause which you are serving. And I'm sure each one of you also is very conscious of the power that you yield, the power of your signature, which can impact lakhs of lives, the power of your decision, the power of every action that you take. And we all know that with great power comes great responsibility. And I think our collective responsibility, all of us assembled in this room, many of us who have joined us on the webcast through the country, we all recognize the immense power that we have. And I think we are collectively responsible to take the country to greater heights so that 1.35 billion people, 135 crore brothers and sisters across the country have a better quality of life in the future. In fact, I was very intrigued when I was looking up the history of the civil services. I believe it was way back in 1886 when for the first time Indians were given an opportunity to serve the nation, join public service. But at that time, it was still largely a pro-British service. But I think for the last 75 years, our Indian civil servants have truly got an opportunity to serve our motherland, design the civil services to suit the needs of contemporary India, and in a way, make the nation proud of the fact that we are very, very active and living democracy. The rule of law prevails across the country. We have transparent models of governance, and across the world, we are seen as a trusted partner when it comes to greater engagement, whether geopolitical or in trade in goods and services. In fact, the Iron Man of India had given all of you the title of being the steel frame of India way back in 1947 when in his address on 21st April, that is tomorrow, 1947, he addressed the first batch of IAS officers. And I think it's a fitting tribute to the contribution and the good work that each one of you is doing. But at that time, he had also outlined his vision of how you will serve the nation in independent India. He had laid down certain elements of good governance for each of us to follow. I think Civil Services Day in that sense is also a day where we can recognize and appreciate each other's contribution, but also introspect or evaluate what we have done, what our colleagues have done, and what we as a nation have been able to do, as a collective civil society, have been able to do to take this country forward. COVID-19, of course, was a very challenging time, as the previous panelists who spoke before me mentioned. But we also used that opportunity to convert this crisis into an awareness about the huge potential that all of us have, that the people of India have, to engage with the world from a position of strength, with self-confidence in our abilities, and play a greater role in the world economies, in growth that the world is yearning for. And I must at this point mention, one of the biggest beneficiaries of our work during COVID-19 was the services sector, which has grown by leaps and bounds. We have a $250 billion export of services during the last year. And this is, mind you, without travel, tourism, and hospitality. Three sectors which collectively contribute very significantly to our services exports. This only shows the immense potential that we have. And one of the reasons why this happened is because all of you immediately rejigged your processes, the rules, allowed work from home, ensured that people could move equipment. Many of you ensured that broadband connectivity was taken to people's homes. And the good part is that throughout COVID, India did not let down anybody with whom we had our contracts for even 1 second in terms of delivery of services. And because of that, India today is recognized across the world as a trusted partner, somebody with whom the world wants to increase their engagement, somebody that the world believes will deliver in the most adverse circumstances, somebody or a nation where the rule of law prevails, it's a vibrant democracy, we have a very live media, the judicial pillar is strong, ensuring that the laws are implemented, the laws are met, our democratic systems, our institutions perform to serve the country, to serve right against wrong. And all of these have helped us to earn the trust of the world. That is also evident in the significant growth of over 43% in the export of goods during the last 12 months. We've consistently had $30 billion of export month on month. March taking it to $42 billion of export. And you'll be happy to know that in the first 14 days of April, we are at about $18.5 billion of exports. And I'm sure as civil servants, all of you remember and recognize that after the big thrust we give in March, every year in April we normally fall. And I think Mr. Jory would be the best person to confirm that from his statistical analysis. But this time around, April also continues to be robust, giving you a sense of the opportunity that lies before all of us. And this is only possible, as was said by Aparna-ji also and other colleagues, because it was a whole of the government approach. Whether it's the center, the states, the local bodies, our PSUs, our autonomous bodies, our media, our judicial officers. I think the entire country, maybe we can call it the whole of the nation approach, that helped us achieve this tremendous $419.8 or $420 billion merchandise export and $250 billion in service exports for the first time ever, breaching the $400 billion mark, and for the first time ever achieving $250 billion. This milestone is a part of the growing Aatmanirbhar Bharat story. By Aatmanirbhar Bharat, we are not closing India's engagement to the rest of the world. They're actually opening our doors wider, but recognizing that we have to be competitive, both when we deal with other countries and when we are dealing within the country also. We have to look at high quality standards, benchmarking to the best in the world. We have to engage with economies of scale so that we can truly become competitive, particularly in comparison to other economies which are eyeing the same pie that we are looking for. The labor-oriented sectors like textiles, pharmaceuticals, gem and jewelry, leather, handloom and handicraft, agriculture. Many other countries eyeing the same sectors. And India has an abysmally low share yet in world trade in all of these sectors, showing us that there is tremendous potential. If we were all to focus on exports, reliability, as I mentioned earlier, is a very important aspect where we have earned brownie points, and we cannot allow that trust to be eroded. We have to meet our commitments in time, high quality, and therefore the PLI schemes, which will help us create global champions, bring economies of scale to our manufacturing, will certainly play a very important role in our journey to contribute more in terms of exports to the rest of the world. Exports also help us earn precious foreign exchange, keeps our rupee stable. We don't devalue our currency too much. If that remains stable, inflation will remain in check because we are still a largely import-led economy. Our imports still continue to be more than exports. So despite some theories, and I totally disagree with that theory, but I don't know what the economists say, there is a large school of thought which believes that you need to devalue your currency so that you become competitive in the export market. I've personally been an exporter in my private life before I joined government, and I can assure you that my own experience and my engagement with large sections of industry across the board confirms that rupee devaluation or weakening our currency is actually detrimental to our nation's interests, to our growth story, and to our ability to be competitive in the long run. It increases our cost of imports, brings inflation into the country, increases our cost of interest, makes our products uncompetitive wherever we are import dependent for raw materials. And therefore, in balance, I believe it's important that we expand our exports significantly, encourage more investments to come into the country, so more foreign exchange coming into the country, and coupled with our earnings through large remittances that the 30 million plus Indian diaspora sends to India, I think we can continue to grow our foreign exchange reserves, which are a robust $600 billion plus today. They can continue to grow and continue to serve India, keeping our interest costs, our inflation low, our input costs low. And I think that will help us become much more competitive in the years to come. I like the presentation that Sunilji made. Very often some people, and I think it's a very misguided thinking, that opening up or more flexibility in our engagement with labor is detrimental to labor interest, is a flawed argument. Again, similar to the dollar appreciation argument. I think labor gets more opportunities as more investments flow into the country, and investments will flow when they have the confidence that we have a very peaceful labor environment in the country. Of course, I must compliment our labor for the hard work they're putting in, for the fact that there's very, very good peace and harmony across the country. And I say that to all the investors, that you really have nothing to worry when you come to India. There's no incident of a single labor disruption that I recall in the last 7 or 8 years, except one which was because labor wages were not paid on time, which happened probably in somewhere in Karnataka. And that was also resolved within a month or 15 days. Other than that, in the last 8 years we have been in government, I do not recall a single instance where labor has caused any disruption in economic activity. And I respect the hard work and the good work that the labor unions have done, that our hardworking shamiks have done. And I'm sure the effort that we have made over the last few months and years to further promote opportunities for new jobs, employment for our young boys and girls, the new codes which help us in attracting investment into the country, which in the unlikely or very rare event that somebody is not able to perform profitably, even if we should be required to close operations, we have ensured that the labor gets a due share, a very substantive increase in the facilities and benefits that they get, which will help in attracting more investments and therefore give them an opportunity to get new jobs for the skills that labor already would have. So I think the effort that has been done by the Labor Department is truly supportive of new job generation and very, very favorably inclined for labor and their future. Similarly, I think the effort that Mr. Jory spoke about in terms of removing the inverted duty structures is very much welcome. Of course, we have to balance out the protection that Indian industry may often require, but clearly we have to make raw materials more and more competitive, more and more affordable, so that our finished goods made in India using Indian labor, giving job opportunities to our boys and girls, can become competitive both in India and in the international markets. We cannot look at additional costs on our raw materials because that makes Indian manufacturing non-competitive. And then the finished goods will start getting imported in a bigger way. So wherever we get an opportunity, we must work, and we would solicit ideas from all of you where you feel that raw materials in India are getting disadvantaged because of any taxes or any regulation and makes our finished product more expensive. I'll give you a simple example of plastic industry. The worldwide plastic trade is huge. It's, I think, $300 or $400 billion. We continue to import polymers largely. And if we add any cost to that polymer, we'll make our plastic finished product uncompetitive. That will encourage more people to import plastic finished product rather than manufacturing in India and becoming export worthy. And of course, the more we have a bigger demand across the world, coupled with the large Indian demand, we'll be able to really scale up our manufacturing and therefore provide more jobs to our growing population. We recently removed the import duty on cotton so that we can make cotton more affordable, particularly in a scenario where cotton prices are almost twice the minimum support price. In this scenario, our textile exports were becoming uncompetitive. And I'm delighted that you have taken that decision to remove import duty on cotton. Now look at the story. Cotton as a product is only 20% of the finished value of textile or ready-made garment export. So you're adding almost 400% value when you process that cotton into fiber or fabric and then a finished apparel. But by making your raw material expensive, you are actually losing the entire value chain ahead of it. You may possibly land up losing 4 jobs for every 1 job that you protect. And this story repeats itself in many areas. We have recently removed the anti-dumping duty on several raw materials with the same intention that we have to become competitive in our raw materials and make our finished products more competitive in the world. Imagine, the more we are able to export goods or services, our Indian people will get more jobs. When the Indian people get more jobs, it brings consumption expenditure into India. It adds the income levels and purchasing capacity in the hands of our people. And that adds to the economic activity. Of course, also adds to state and central taxes. So it's a virtuous circle, not a vicious circle. It's a virtuous circle of growth coming out of exports, supporting domestic job creation, domestic jobs giving you more purchasing power, additional revenues for governments to serve the people for their social welfare activities, higher purchasing power creating more demand, therefore more economic activity, more investment. And this virtuous circle will ultimately take us to the true level of development that India and Indians deserve, becoming a prosperous and developed nation. And I think this just cannot happen unless every state, every local body, everybody works in tandem. There was a time until a few years ago, states never believed it's their responsibility to encourage exports. But when they recognize this virtuous cycle that exports can bring them, I think every state and every district collector will also be encouraged to promote exports, make export an important element of their work, and help us become an internationally relevant player. Our current merchandise exports is under 3% of world trade. And there's a great opportunity waiting for us there. The pharma sector that Madam spoke about, I've been often saying that we have the second largest number of US FDA companies you mentioned. Now it's high time we decided that as a nation, every pharma unit, big or small, will adopt good manufacturing practices or global standards in every unit. Maybe the large units can handle, or government also may come out with some proposals at the state or central level to support our small pharma companies so that they also adopt global quality standards and we can become a member of PICS, the Pharmaceutical Inspection Convention, which helps us demonstrate to the world that every medicine made in India is high quality. And the day we can do that, I promise you that $40 billion of exports that pharma is doing today, or $60 billion, can go to $200 billion. This 60 billion has the potential to go to $200 billion at the minimum, because we are competitive. We are in comparison with other countries, we can stand up to any country. We have the talent, we have the skill, we have the technology. Everything is available in India. We have to earn the trust of the world, and that can be earned if we become a PICS member. And that can only be possible if even our MSMEs start adopting global standards, and we all encourage. And there's a flip side to it for civil servants. The medicines that you buy in your state governments or your medical facilities will also probably become better quality when everybody adopts global manufacturing standards. So it's something we have to, all of us have to collectively decide. What is the India of tomorrow that we want to see? What is our responsibility to take this country to the heights, greater heights of development? As they say, it's not enough to be good. You have to be the best if you want to compete or beat the best. And that should be our collective ambition as a nation. Whether it's textiles, whether it's footwear, whether it's handloom, whether it's our agricultural produce, the gentleman very rightly said, we'll have to look at value add in agriculture. We cannot look at agri-exports. By the way, it's not poor. We did $50 billion. That's 3,75,000 crores. I would just change your wording a little bit. Let's not say we are poor in agriculture exports, but we still have a long way to go and a huge potential awaits us. Can we not look at a $200 billion agri exports? Why should we be satisfied with 3.7? Agri products and make value-added products which will go to the world and for Indian market also. All the jobs we create in this value addition will give purchasing power to our farmers and to the labor in these sectors. And I'm just trying to stress on the virtuous cycle that can be kickstarted with greater exports. Indian market has its own limitations, but the world market is huge. And the more we engage with the world, the more we'll be able to really add economic activity to India. Similarly, on layoffs, I think it's something the states have to notify all the rules. We have kept a lot of flexibility for the states to decide how they want to set up the rules for layoff or closure, if at all that becomes necessary. But the reality is, for a growing economy like India, growing businesses, if we adopt equality, if we use economies of scale, if we take care of our workmen, I suspect very few businesses will ever close down. Let's not worry about the few small percentage that goes into difficulty. Let's focus on creating the larger opportunities that are available before all of us. I remember that old story that don't try to break the stick, try to make a bigger line in front of the small line. Don't focus on what's happening today. Focus on what is the potential tomorrow. And for every problem, there is a better way to do things. And if all of us collectively decide that we're going to do our work better, I think the sky is the limit. One area which came out of the discussions today is data sharing. I saw in the various presentations, Mr. Jori has tons of data, Commerce Ministry has tons of data, different sectoral departments have tons of data. Let's share more data with the people openly, anonymize it and share it so that people know where the investment opportunities are. When we are doing FTAs, we'll need cooperation of everybody. Let's not be protectionists. Let's not close our doors. You can't expect that the world will open up for your products, but you can afford to remain closed in your markets. It's a give and take. It's a two-way traffic. We'll have to engage with the world. We'll have to open our markets, but let's not be worried about it. We have the confidence we can compete with anybody in the world. Wherever there are difficulties, let's work together in partnership, find solutions so that we can be competitive. We can face anybody in the world when it comes to our capabilities and skills and competencies. I urge each one of you, let's set greater and greater benchmarks, bigger targets. I, for one, believe that if all of you take it upon yourself as your responsibility to make exports the fulcrum of India's growth in the future, we can easily target a $1 trillion export of merchandise goods and a $1 trillion export of services by 2030. The next 8 years is good enough time to look at growth of exports to $2 trillion. That is what is going to take our dream of new India to the people. That's what is going to help us improve the quality of life, bring ease of living into the lives of 135 crore Indians. I invite all of you to be a part of this journey for $2 trillion of export by 2030. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. It has been an enriching session for all of us. Sir, we will keep the larger vision of Aatmanirbhar Bharat with focus on export promotion and learnings from this session in sight while discharging our duties in whatever positions we are working. With this, I profusely thank the Honorable Chair, all the panelists and participants for their valuable views on the subject. Thank you.
Honorable Minister, I request you to kindly stay back for a moment. आपका सम्मान करने के लिए मैं यहाँ पर निवेदन करती हूँ, आमंत्रित करती हूँ। मैं श्री अजीत शाह DS DAR MP जी आपको कि माननीय मंत्री जी को शॉल भेंट करें। और आपसे ही निवेदन है कि हमारे जो एमिनेंट पैनलिस्ट हैं उनको भी ये भेंट करें मेमेंटो। मिस S अपर्णा जी, सेक्रेटरी डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ फार्मास्यूटिकल, और सुनील बर्तवाल जी, सेक्रेटरी मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ श्री विवेक जौहरी जी, श्री P रवि कुमार जी, और डॉक्टर शशांक गोयल जो है रेपिटेयर, उनको भी प्रदान किया जा रहा है मंत्रालय की तरफ से। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद माननीय मंत्री जी, आप सभी का हृदय से धन्यवाद। और आप सभी से निवेदन है कि अभी ये चाय ब्रेक है, टी ब्रेक है आधे घंटे का, लेकिन इसके बाद ब्रेक अवे सेशन है और उसके बाद 5 बजे सोच रहे हैं हम कि OPM गति शक्ति का जो यहाँ प्लीनरी सेशन है वो हो। लेकिन इसके बीच में हम आपको बता दें जो अवार्डीज हैं उनकी रिहर्सल भी यहाँ पर होने वाली है, तो आई वॉन्ट देयर प्रेजेंस एज वेल। एट द सेम टाइम दूरदर्शन की उनकी टीम जो है वो उनकी बाइट लेने के लिए भी आई है, तो उस रिहर्सल के बीच में कहीं हम लोग बाइट्स भी देने के लिए कोशिश करेंगे। तो आप लोगों से निवेदन है कि चाय पर पधारें, लेकिन मेरा ये भी निवेदन है कि हम रिहर्सल भी कर लें बिकॉज वी डोंट हैव मच टाइम। तो आप लोग देख लीजिए और उसके बाद में दूरदर्शन की जो बाइट्स हैं वो हमारे अवार्डीज वो दे सकते हैं। प्रॉक्सिमिटी पास आप लोग मंत्रालय की तरफ से ले सकते हैं, कार्ड जो आपकी फैमिली के लिए इन्विटेशन वो भी आप ले सकते हैं। तो हम ब्रेकअवे सेशंस के लिए आपको 4, 5 और 6